an actual genetic trait or if it's just another line bred thing. Oh, he's doing this funny little pose here. Hey guys, this is Josiah with another underground tour. Today I'm going to be showing you guys my gecko rooms. I have one room that I keep my Crested geckos and Gargoyles in, and another room that I keep my Leachianus and Chihuahuas in. Alright, let's go ahead and take a look at some geckos. So over here I have my male lily white, and he is one of my first lily whites. I had actually gotten a pair of lily whites. Now if you notice on this guy, he's got this little groove in his back. This isn't something that's uncommon in crested geckos. It happens a lot of the times when their cages aren't tall enough. What happens is they'll hang upside down, and their tails, because their tail doesn't have anywhere to go, it'll just fold over. And that's my fault. At the time I didn't have a cage that was tall enough for him. I procrastinated on that, so that's my bad. It can also happen when the gecko doesn't get enough calcium in its diet while it's growing up. So I think it had plenty of calcium. I was, dusting its insects and also adding additional calcium to its diet, which, that's another thing we should talk about is its diet. So it had plenty of calcium in its diet. I think it was just a result of that. I produced quite a few lily whites from him already, and I haven't seen anything genetic pop out from this little groove in its spine right here. If it did, I wouldn't be breeding it anymore. We try to practice responsible breeding here at Underground Reptiles, not reproduce anything that isn't genetically stable. So I'm going to go ahead and put him back in this guy. He's great. Let's take a look at some of my other geckos. So this one is one of my favorite geckos to show people who are unfamiliar with crested geckos, and that is because this lady is one of the older crested geckos I have. She's about 6 or 7 years old. I'm not exactly sure. When I bought her, she was already an adult. And as you can see, she is a Harlequin, and Harlequin just means that she has pattern on her back as well as on her sides. A super Harlequin is when this pattern on the sides reach all the way up to her back, and you can see some of it's kind of getting there, but she's not a super Harlequin. She's just a normal Harlequin. And she has some yellow patterning on her back, and then her base color is a grayish color. And you can see one of her eyes is starting to darken here, and that is actually a trait that is super common, and not super common, but it appears in gargoyle geckos. I've actually never seen it in crested geckos before. As far as I know, it doesn't affect her vision. She hasn't had any issues eating. I'll offer her insects right in front of her face. She takes it no problem. So, as far as I know, it's purely aesthetic. If you guys know something else about it that I don't, feel free to leave a comment below. I am always open to learning more. So we'll put this girl back. And then moving on, we can look at these guys in here. So this guy is one of my male breeders, and this was actually a part of the first group that I obtained from Tiki's Geckos. And as you can see, this guy has just outstanding color and structure. When I refer to structure, I refer to how its pattern looks. So, I refer to how its pattern looks. So you see these raised scales on either side of its spine. Those are the that's the pinstriping that I was talking about. And then on the side, the lateral markings, you can see that they're really thick white patterning, and that's the structure. And then the color is this super bright cream pattern, and then the sides, its base color is like a dark brown grayish color. So it's just a really striking gecko. Now this isn't a lily white, although it's a very impressive gecko. Some people would confuse a he got behind this cage. Some people would confuse a nice cream pattern gecko with a lily white, but it's fairly easy to distinguish the two from each other. What you're looking for when distinguishing the two is a solid pattern on the back. So see all these little breaks? Usually lily whites aren't going to have that. Also, if you look from the side, this is like a flat pattern that's just like right on top of his back. You don't really get that with lily whites. Lily whites, it's just a little bit thicker, and it looks like almost someone smeared some icing on top of them. So we'll go ahead and put that guy back. So let's take a look at one of my Gargs. Garg is just an abbreviation for Gargoyle, in case you guys were wondering. This guy is a red striped, and this is a really nice example of a red stripe. On the footage, as I was looking at it earlier, it might appear as an orange stripe, and that's not uncommon for crested geckos and gargoyle geckos, to what's called fire up and fire down. And all that means is that when the gecko feels more alert, when it feels more sometimes threatened, its colors will intensify to kind of display, hey, I'm not good to eat, right? Just like how some insects have very bright colors to display, hey, I'm poisonous, don't eat me. These geckos kind of imitate that when they feel threatened or alarmed. And then, as you can see, this guy has a little nubby tail right on the end there. It's starting to grow. And that is because gargoyle geckos, unlike crested geckos, actually regenerate their tails. Unfortunately, gargoyle geckos, one of their favorite snacks, even as adults, are each other's tails. So this morning, I came into an awesome surprise. I found that I had both a gargoyle gecko hatch out, which you can see here, and also we had hatch out a what's it called? A Leachianus gecko, which we'll show in just one second. And here you can see our Leachianus that just hatched out. This guy, and again, we're going to be talking more about Leachianus when we go into the next room. These guys usually take a little bit longer to incubate, usually closer to 80 to 90 days, I find. And this one came from a pairing of Nuana to Nuami, which are two different localities of island Leachianus. And again, we're going to be talking about that when we go to the next room. All right, so let's check it out. So this is our Leachianus / Chihuahua room. I say Chihuahua room, but we only have two at the moment. Chihuahuas are another gecko that come from New Caledonia. Now, Chihuahuas are one of the harder New Caledonian geckos to breed. You might have missed it because they're very good at camouflage, but there is a Chihuahua gecko right here. They're also the Chihuahua gecko, Rhacodactylus chihuahua is the scientific name. The common name is mossy prehensile tail gecko. And they come in, again, a wide variety of colors. These guys usually have more naturalistic colors, greens, whites, reds, and their colors kind of blended in. And they're just a really cool gecko. They make great pets, just like crested geckos or gargoyle geckos. They do tend to be a little bit more expensive because of the higher difficulty in breeding, but they are super cool. Their handleability is similar to that of a crested gecko or a gargoyle gecko, but again, they don't produce quite as well as the other ones do. All right, so let's talk Leachianus geckos. We already did a creature feature for Leachianus geckos. I just want to show you guys how they're set up real quick. I set them up in 90-quart bins, and those are these guys right here. I don't know if you can get a sense for how big they are. You can look them up. Walmart sells these. Yep, 90 quart, 30 inch by 19 inch by 13 inch. So nice big enclosures for a nice big gecko. Where Leachianus are from, they are kind of the kings of the geckos. So I talked earlier about how gargoyle geckos and crested geckos are prey for other geckos where they're from. These are the geckos that prey upon those geckos. These guys are Leachianus geckos. They have similar diets to that of crested geckos and gargoyle geckos, but they also will eat small mammals, they will also eat small geckos. So this guy is very impressive. Again, they come in a wide variety of colors and patterns, but like the Chihuahua, they're more naturalistic, more greens, more browns. They sometimes have very impressive blotches that are either pink or red. So there's a lot of really cool options for these guys. It's actually the largest gecko in the world. So this is just an example of one of our GT Leachianus geckos. And GT just stands for Grand Terre, which is the main island that they come from. Those are the larger ones. And then everything that's not a GT is going to be an island type, which are the smaller locality of Leachianus geckos. The island types usually are more colorful, but stay a bit smaller. So some people go for the size, some people go for the color, up to your preference. Some people like GTX, which is a cross between a GT and an island type. And that you kind of get a larger gecko with some nicer color. Some people prefer the in-between option. I have GTs, I have GTXs, and I also have island types. So be looking out for that because we'll probably be producing some of each of those within the next few years. This one is a really nice example of a GTX. So as you can see, oh man, look at this thing. She has, like I was saying, these pink blotches all over her body. They're nice and big. There's a little bit of white in the center of that one. And she is getting nice and big. She's probably at about 200 grams right now, maybe 9 inches long. And she still has a good bit of growing to do. She's gonna grow at least another 100, 150 grams. She's also gonna grow at least another 4 or 5 inches. So this is just a really nice example of a GTX. Again, she's gonna be producing for us within the next year or so. So be on the lookout for that if you are interested in babies from this lovely lady. So let's look at an island type now. So if you look here, this is a pair of island types. These are actually the pair that baby I just showed you came from. The male is a Nuana, the female is a Nuami. And let's take a look here. See, I like to provide them with a nice big cork bark because they are nice big geckos, like I was saying. And you gotta be careful with these things sometimes because they can be territorial and you don't want to take a bite from one of these things. They got big, strong jaws. So just be careful when you're handling these things, when you're taking them out of their environment, should I say. Once you get them in your hand, they're usually really good when it comes to temperament. And they'll let you know when they're upset with you. They'll squeak at you, they'll bark at you even. They're very vocal geckos, but not nearly as aggressive as something like a tokay. So this one is the Nuami. As you can see, she's got these really nice white blotches all over her with black dots in the center. Again, you get this really nice coloration. The trade-off is it's not nearly as big as the GTs, but it's still a very impressive gecko, and she's got some really nice coloration. And what else about these guys? Oh, unlike gargoyles and crested geckos, you want to keep these guys just in pairs of 1.1, that is one male to one female. If you have more than one female or more than one male, odds are there's gonna be some fighting, and you don't want that at all. And again, if you look into this setup, I have just 2 cork barks, so that way 2 cork rounds. One is a large, one is a jumbo, just so that way, you know, let's say they get into a fight and she makes him sleep on the couch, he can just crawl right into that other cork round and they can be separate from each other for a little while and get some personal time. Hey guys, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed our tour today. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to leave a comment down below. If you'd like to see more of our videos, feel free to subscribe and hit that notification bell so that way you're notified whenever we upload a new video. Thanks, and stay weird.